All right, well, welcome to Wieger Tech. Today is kind of a fun day. We had an Apple announcement. And so I have a good friend here, Colin Ball. Colin, I went to college with him. We were roommates. And now he works for B Squared Interactive in Omaha, an SEO firm here. Maybe I'll let him talk a little bit more about that later. But today, him and I think, are just going to do a recap of the Apple announcement today. They had a lot of cool stuff. I think their title was, they have a lot more to talk about, was kind of the gist of stuff. Very colorful invitation that they sent out. And today, so we're just going to do a quick little recap for you guys who didn't have time to watch the announcement and talk about some of the key highlights. How's it going, Colin?
It's good. It's going good. Today was a long day at work. It's just another day. Gotta keep going.
And so you actually do a live kind of sort of blogging too, don't you?
For the most part, we have a site that we work with it's called alwayscurrent.com. It's kind of just a site that we use it. We built it. We just kind of use it as something to keep us writing, keep the content team writing. I kind of I'm the one that kind of took it up when I first started working there back in July. Since then, it's grown from 0 posts to, I believe we're at almost 80, and it's only been about a month or two.
Wow.
So
it lives up to its name, Always Current. Posting a lot.
We try and keep it up to its name. That's all.
And there will be links to all that down in the description. I'm going to put links to the B Squared Interactive site, to Always Current. And then obviously if you're watching this, you probably know my site, wiegertech.com. But yeah, so we decided to come together today and make this video. Both just kind of have a passion for technology, so I guess we'll just jump right in. So I kind of started with stats, kind of a summary of how things have been going. The one thing that stuck out to me was 64% of the iOS devices are upgraded to iOS 7, which is kind of a big number.
Well, when I saw the 64, I kind of thought of it as more... I mean, if you think about it, there's how many people that have an iOS device, and then 64%, how many of those are below a 4, which was the one that was comparable to what could pick up iOS 7, and it's just one of those things. I see the 64%, but then I think to myself, how much of that is people who changed to iOS 7 and maybe kind of reverted back if there was that possibility. But I don't know. I'm still kind of iffy on how that 64 is
calculated.
Yes. Very
true. But either way, I mean, no matter how they calculate, I think it definitely blows Android out of the water. And I think the one downside to Android, Android is definitely, Android and iOS are very similar at this point, especially with iOS copying a lot of the Android things in iOS 7. But Android is very segmented. You have all these different phones that take all these different, versions of Android, Jelly Bean, Ice Cream Sandwich, all those. And so I think the nice thing about iOS, and with 64% at least, it's a majority, it's more than 50%, are up to date with the current operating system. That says a lot for them.
Yeah.
What other stats, any other things stand out to you?
Another big thing they spoke about was the CEO, Tim Cook, was talking about iTunes Radio, which, if you don't know iTunes Radio, it was one of the big things that came out with iOS 7. It's Apple's version of Pandora. That's the best way to look at it. 20 million listeners have tuned in since its release last month, and over 1 billion songs have already been played. So the amount of hours that is
that's insane.
Unreal.
Yeah, well, especially because I kind of thought, at least, it was kind of hard to find at first on the computer.
Yes.
Going into iTunes, I was expecting a standalone app, kind of like iOS 7 had it. But yeah, it seemed to work really well. Or sorry, not in iOS. It's not a standalone app in iOS 7. It's a standalone app on the Apple TV. That's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, yes.
The Apple TV, it's a standalone app. iOS 7, it's in your music, and on the computer, it's in your iTunes. So it's a great number for having it a little bit hidden.
I will say it was hidden on the computer for the most part. With iPad and iPhone, it was like, I thought all my music was lost. I thought iTunes Radio was the only thing I was going to get. Because all of a sudden you open up music and the only thing to come up is what? iTunes Radio. So they were very good about pushing iTunes Radio.
That's true.
Not so much forcing it onto people, but being like, here it is.
I'd love to see some numbers on maybe, what the split is between people listening to it on a OS X desktop, laptop as compared to mobile. I think mobile probably has it. When I think of Pandora, I just think of I'm listening on my phone in the car is when I usually do it. But, a lot of people around the house They have the AirPlay speakers. They're using their computers, so just kind of a fun number to see that split out. But so what was the first thing they kind of talked about? I think
the first thing they went into was OS 10 Mavericks, the newest operating system for the iMac, MacBook Pros, and I believe the Mac Pro will run it.
Yes.
Because the Mac Pro, yes.
I would think so.
All of the newest computer-based products that Apple runs will run OS 10 Mavericks, which in its own right is kind of a step up from what they've done with Mountain Lion, but I haven't downloaded it yet, and if you haven't downloaded it, it's free and was released today already.
Free was the big part. I was very surprised with free, along with the fact that even with back when we went to Lion, they were starting to make me think that I have a 2009 MacBook, and I know you do too. Bought it right before I went to college, and I was really afraid that it wasn't going to upgrade, and they were actually very skeptical on which ones are going to upgrade. With Mavericks, they were like, we're going pretty far back. All the way back, I think, 2007 MacBook Pros.
2007 iMacs.
2007 iMacs, that's what it was. But yeah, my MacBook upgraded great. I did upgrade. I've had just about 20 minutes to just play around with it, and it's nice. It seems to run well. Obviously, I haven't done any benchmarking or anything like that, but it seems to do really well. But yeah, free. Big part of Mavericks.
And I don't know, I'm a Windows user at work. I've had a Mac for 4 years at school, and before that I always used Windows. So having the kind of both helps, but it seemed, and it was very apparent for the most part in the talks, that Apple was we're not Windows, we're competing with Windows, because 8.1 Windows just came out. That was a free download as long as you had 8.0. Mavericks is free. It was like the day they announced it was the day it was coming out. So it was kind of just, there kind of just seems to be a snowball effect where Apple's kind of taken the benchmark that someone else has set and been like, guess what?
We can do it better.
Here's what we have.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think too, it seems to me that having everyone on the same platform, the newest running software, seems to be important for Apple. I mean, they talked about the 64% on iOS 7. They're giving this away for free. I mean, if it's free, what's stopping people from upgrading besides old hardware? And they kind of answer that with, they go back pretty far. Obviously not everything, not all old computers, but most of them. I think they really want to see everyone on the newest software. Security, it always increases that. Little advantages there.
I think the biggest thing that I saw, especially with OS 10, I mean, they talked about it with the 13-inch MacBook Air is what they kind of referenced. There wasn't a new one. They were just talking about it as an example. By upgrading to OS 10, they said you'll get an hour longer of web browsing and an hour and a half longer of iTunes movie playback, which in reality doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're not running with a power cord plugged in, I mean, I always had the problem. It's like, even if you have a great battery, you're halfway through a movie and all of a sudden you see you're halfway dead of your battery.
Run around trying to find a charger.
Yeah. So for me, I thought that was kind of a big step. And then the Mavericks is going to compress RAM. So you're going to be able to go from 4 gigabytes of RAM effectively to 6 gigabytes of RAM, which to me, that doesn't mean a whole lot. I'm one of those people that I know what RAM stands for, random access memory. What it does, I don't know. So
yeah. Well, I think a lot of that too. I mean, it even makes my old MacBook, 2009. I always use my iMac now for my editing, but it just gives you that little extra boost if you ever were in a pinch, I guess. But yeah, I thought it was hilarious how he said, we want to go around and give you guys all upgrade your hardware, but we're not going to go around knocking on door to door because we're kind of very shy coder guys. But I mean, the fact that they spend that much time on software to be able to pretty much do almost a hardware update just from code is, I think, impressive. Yeah. And I think it really shows the power of code and how we saw it with phones a while ago. People stopped focusing on the tech specs and they just want to know how it runs. How does it operate? Let's not focus on the tech specs. Just tell me how it works when I'm running the programs I'm going to be running. I thought that was big for them. So yeah, that was kind of the Mavericks announcement. Yeah. Free today. Upgrade your computer a lot. Works for all devices. I think that was expected. Everyone saw that coming. I don't think everyone saw the today part aspect of it.
Because, I mean, they brought it up back in July, correct? When they announced iOS 7 at the WWDC.
Right.
So they brought it up then. Everyone was like, so if they didn't talk about it last month at the iPhone announcement. Obviously, they were going to talk about it today, but it was more of what is it going to do. It was the same thing when iOS 7 was finally we're coming out with it. It was what is it going to do for me? How is it going to improve what is already on the computer?
Right.
But
yeah, so that was Mavericks. I think that was a solid announcement by them. Nothing groundbreaking, but just a good announcement in general. So what was kind of next? What did they go over next?
The next thing was the two newest MacBook Pros, which are the 13 and the 15-inch, both of which now have the Retina display. So you're going from, say, I think last year only the 15-inch.
I believe
or
so.
It was either that or only the MacBook Air was running with a Retina display. So
the Pro did. The MacBook Pro did.
MacBook Pro did.
Yeah,
so
you could buy the Pro with the Retina.
There is no longer a mid-range MacBook Pro. They kind of took that out this year.
Yeah, just
finally.
the different sizes.
Yeah.
Both Retina. I thought that was big. I think just the idea of Retina in general, I didn't think I would notice, and I actually looked at someone's laptop who had Retina, and it pops. It really does. And the fact that they're able to get that battery life still from that Retina, I mean, that's impressive. Usually, you can either have, the battery life or Retina, one of the two, and they're able to get both, which I think is great. And $200, right?
$200 off.
$200 off.
It went from $14.99 for the 13-inch to $12.99.
Right.
Which, truthfully, is a step in the right direction, especially with the way that they're able to make things in such mass quantity now. So
exactly. I mean, that was my biggest thing is you're getting, especially on that 13-inch, you're getting Retina now.
Thunderbolt 2.
Thunderbolt 2, which Thunderbolt is something I'm a little iffy on just because of, first of all, how expensive hard drives are. It's great. It's a super fast. It's amazing technology. We just need to have it adopted more. More companies need to start making stuff for it. Great technology is underutilized at this point.
Trying to see. Another big thing that they announced with the 13-inch was the fact that it's lighter and it's thinner. So the 13-inch, with the MacBook Air, you're getting the thinnest computer that Apple makes, obviously. But with the 13-inch, it's only 0.71 inches thick, which when you look at if you look at 3/4 of an inch, it's not big at all, and it only weighs just around 3.5 pounds, which when you're a person who lugs around their computer everywhere, 3.5 pounds really ends up being nice.
Yeah, definitely. Little things, 802.11 AC, updated Wi-Fi. Pretty much all that is, if you don't know what AC is it's a directional Wi-Fi. Obviously, you have to have an AC base station. A lot of you guys are probably running 802.11n, AB, and stuff like that, G. The Apple does now. They did earlier this year come out with an AC Airport Extreme. It's faster. It does give you more range. It can kind of focus the Wi-Fi signal, focus the strength on areas where you actually are in your home, which is great. Small stuff like that. Nothing too big, but Intel Iris graphics.
Yes.
I know for photo and video people, it's going to be big.
Yeah. I
don't know much about that, to be honest, but I hear it's a big upgrade and it'll be good for them, which is great. So yeah, MacBook Pros, a really good upgrade. Configurable up to 1 terabyte of flash storage, which I just think is insane. Flash storage is the way to go now. It's way faster. You don't have a spinning disk. If you just think of anything that's solid state, it's going to last you a lot longer because it has no moving parts.
Yeah.
It's the way to go, very fast, and now they're able to get a terabyte up to that. The big thing with solid state in the past was that you couldn't get the capacity that you could with with a hard drive, traditional hard drive. Yeah. But now obviously you still can't get that capacity, but we're starting to see good enough for a consumer.
Yeah.
1 terabyte, that's great. That's what I have on my iMac, and I think that's spectacular. If I could have had that in solid state, I would take it in a second. So,
one of the biggest differences, other than the size with the 15 and 13-inch, is going to be the Intel processors. The 13-inch has a dual core, 15 has quad core. That's right. For the money, you're getting a big difference, which is helpful. So with the 13-inch, or where is it? So for the money, yes, we said that the 13-inch is going down to $12.99. The 15-inch is actually dropping $200 also. So going from $21.99 to $19.99. not $19.99, $1,999, just to make sure.
And that's still impressive with all the upgrades you're getting in that computer, and you're paying $200 than you would have, last month when you went out and bought one of these machines that didn't have all these great features. That's great. I'm glad to see Apple doing that. They get a hard time sometimes because they have such a large bank account, yet they weren't going down any of the prices. But I'm really glad to see that. They surprised me with all their pricing models and the entirety of their announcement today.
Well, okay, I'm looking at something now. I'm looking at something from CNET, and they were talking about how the last month, I don't know, the whole price drop was kind of foreseen. The MacBook Air actually dropped last month.
Really?
From, I believe they said, well, they don't say the original price, but they're saying that it's now $1,099. I believe it used to be $1,299.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's stuff I didn't know about, but that's good. I mean, it's a good direction to see them going.
Yes.
Always seeing prices going down. It's great. I'm trying to see if there's HDMI port. I thought that was kind of a hidden thing. Yeah, I just noticed now. One of those things they kind of hide in there, but one of those features that
there is.
When your friends have those Windows computers in the past have HDMI, and you always envy them for just being able to plug into the TV. Obviously, AirPlay is the better option to go, but it's kind of nice. HDMI port right on there. Makes it easy to just plug it in wherever you are to a nice TV.
that's
One
nice.
thing, I don't even know if they mentioned in the announcement, but it was one thing I just noticed.
I feel like I'd never noticed that.
And USB 3 on everything. Kind of a little bit of an upgrade there,
Yeah.
which is nice. And more battery life, like they were talking about. And I'm
Always,
pretty sure they were benchmarking the battery life with Mavericks, so that'll be with Mavericks.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they would have. I don't know why they wouldn't have. They didn't mention, I don't think, but I'm sure that's how they benchmarked the battery life on these ones.
They must have, because they said for the 13-inch you're getting 9 hours of battery life, which is a lot.
Retina display. I mean, and that's another advantage of that solid state. It's one less device to spin up. So like that. But yeah, so MacBook Pro, a lot of great upgrades, $200 cheaper than they previously were, and that was kind of their big announcement there. What are we moving on to next?
The Mac Pro.
What a gorgeous piece of machinery.
The pod, or whatever you want to call it.
just spectacular.
Like, half the stuff that they announced with it is, I feel like it's not only so far over my head, but so far over a lot of people's heads that it is one of the things that is going to change the way a lot of video and music editing aficionados do things. This thing, it really leaves you speechless in what it can do. It is like thinking about it and actually kind of in layman's terms what it is, it's a tower. It's your basic Mac tower for the most part. They kind of went away with that when they came out with the iMac because everything was built in. They've always had the Mac Mini and the Mac, just kind of the processor that you can have on the side. The Mac Pro is going to render all of those moot.
Right.
Going to make everything better. It's a little pricey, but for all that it does, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Well, so maybe with the exception of your clients from work, I'm guessing that a lot of our audience that we have probably it's not going to be a machine for them. It's extremely powerful. Something that if you just need a machine that if you're going to edit basic video, even edit photos, an iMac is fine if you need some power. But this is obviously a higher end machine for professionals. But at that price point, it's almost one of those machines where you see the iMac and you say, okay, maybe, do I spend the extra $800 and get this super powerful machine? One thing without the price, that price did not include, obviously, it doesn't come with a monitor. So you're still going to have to fork out some money for a monitor. But besides that, the price point got me. You're going to see some people who would have originally gone with an iMac maybe try it out. But other than that, I mean, teraflops, words like that, stuff that you just see that I'm sure for these pro end users it's going to mean a lot. And I recognize it's an amazing product, but obviously maybe for our core audience and for us it doesn't mean too much. But it's just an amazing product.
I mean, the biggest thing that they announced that to me stuck out was the fact that it has HDMI 1.4. It supports that and also supports 4K TVs.
Yeah.
4K is the clearest resolution TV that is on the market today. They are the most expensive ones. They're the best. It puts out the best picture you can find. And having, I mean, the thing with the Mac Pro, it's just like the Mac Mini or I can't remember what the rest of them are called. Whichever
the old Mac Pros.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
They were Mac Pro. That's right.
Yeah, the cheese grater.
Yes.
It looked like a big cheese grater. Yes. I mean, they were huge.
And well, I mean those. They all hook up to a TV screen. So if you're one of those people that uses a TV as your monitor, maybe the Mac Pro is the way to go. Especially if you do a lot of video editing and video content, stuff like that. It's going to make life a lot easier for those people.
The design is great. I thought just the fact that it has a huge fan and it's that big, that powerful.
Yeah.
And they said the sound was no more than the Mac Mini that you have sitting in your table when it's sitting at idle. And I just think that's impressive that you can have that big of a machine and it's that quiet. I know one of the people that they gave it to ahead of time was a music producer, and he said it's great for the music studio. You don't even hear it. And that's one of those things. And about the 4K, I want to say, and don't take me for, but I think you can run 3 or 4 actually 4K displays, not just one. It has the power to do that much, which is just insane amount of
It's unreal
of power in that machine. So probably don't need to hit on it too much because, like I said, it's probably not for our audience, but just it's there. Apple had been getting a lot of slack from the Pro community that they had this old cheese grater Mac Pro. They had an upgrade did since 2009, I believe was the last time they upgraded.
Really?
Even the design and all that stuff of that one. So it's a big upgrade for the Pro community, something they needed, and I think they'll be more than pleased.
And if you are someone who's looking for it, it's coming out in December. $2,999, and
It's the base model.
Is the base, which I can't remember how big that one is.
The base is still far more powerful than the iMac, so I mean,
exponentially.
Yeah.
And then also, if you're into it, it's made in the USA. So there you go.
America. So, yeah.
Okay, I guess the next thing they kind of went into was start talking about iWork and iLife, which, if you remember back in, I think they said it either last month or in July. I think it was last month. They were talking about iWork and iLife were going to be free. They left it kind of vague. Everyone assumed that, at least I assumed, that iWork was going to come out that day or that week, and it was going to be free for iOS devices. But they said today that iWork is only going to be free for new computers. So if you were to go and order the MacBook Pro today, or if you went and bought an iMac today, since it has OS 10 Mavericks on it, you will have iWork and iLife.
It ships with it on it, which
yes.
is great. But iLife is free for everyone.
Okay.
I was really confused on that too. I went in just to double check. I put Mavericks on my iMac, which is relatively new. I got it back in May. And the Pages, Keynote, and Numbers they're still $20 a piece, which is still pretty affordable, to be honest. $20 a piece, but iLife was free upgrade for GarageBand, Iphoto, and iMovie. And those were all free upgrades, which is great. And they're upgrades to those, a lot of aesthetics. 64-bit, so you're going to get a little bit faster, a little bit better, smoother process out of it. But
Iphoto was really the only one that was all kind of face value.
Right.
The thing that changed. There was really nothing new with Iphoto.
Yeah. Still great to see them upgrading their products and keep them up to date. Nothing too monumental, though. Obviously, I've always been looking for them to add more to iMovie especially, but when you have a Pro product out there, they have their Pro products in each of those lines. Mm-hmm. You got Aperture, you got Logic. It's just, they need to support those. They need to promote them. So they start you off with something, get you into it, say, okay, this is easy to use. Okay, well then pay the $300 for our Pro product. Which is still a chunk of change to dish out, but they're making it better. You can do a lot on iMovie. You can do a lot in iPhoto for the basic needs of everyone. But
for all you skeuomorphism lovers out there, don't worry. They did not destroy it in OS 10 Mavericks and on the new programs. You have to live with it on iOS 7. Sorry. But skeuomorphism, which is the look of things in real life on computers or on tablets or iPhones, still there. So win for skeuomorphism.
Still get that leather on the calendar and the page tear like it's being torn out. Nothing too different there. Which I think they're using iOS 7 more as an experiment. How do people like it? iOS 7's flatter. They got rid of those things like the leather, like the metal-y look. You know, stuff that, like he said, how it looks in real life.
Yeah.
Yet our save button is still a floppy disk.
And the phone is still a nice hard phone. So
Yeah.
some things never die. Sadly and happily, I guess.
It's a good mix. People still like the skeuomorphism. They still see it. It's okay. They see that phone and they're like, okay, I didn't lose everything.
As long as 11-year-olds have to ask you what it is, just feel better.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yes, exactly.
We're 22 and we say that, so we win.
Definitely.
There really wasn't a whole lot to say. I mean...
I think that covers, iLife and...
Well, the biggest thing with iWork, they had the beta going out with iWork for iCloud. And, it's basically...
It worked pretty well.
Worked really well. It has crossover for both Mac and Windows users. I like that because there are times when I was starting to work on something at home on my Mac, and then I'd go to work and kind of see if it would work. I'm not a big Pages user, so for me, something I was listening to today, they were talking about not a lot of people use Pages.
Right.
It's not really it's known, but...
We have Microsoft Word that everyone just knows.
Microsoft Office has been out and around for so long, that's just... the word processor that people use.
Right. The one time I found it useful was I do not have Pages, Numbers, or Keynote on my laptop. I haven't paid the $20, but they're free on iOS 7 now, so I have them on my iPad. There was one time where I actually only had my iPad. I needed to make a document, and so I started typing it up in Pages on the iPad, and I went to go to my computer, and I was like, oh, wait, I don't have it, but you can actually still log in on the computer and use it in the cloud, even if you have not purchased it for your Mac. So it is a way to use those iWork products in the cloud. Obviously, they're not full-featured, but you can still use them from your computer without having purchased the full apps, which is a nice little plus. It gets you through. If you need to get on your computer and get it printed, it gets you through, which is nice.
That was it for iWork and iLife. It was kind of just, like we said, just a lot of just kind of face value. What you're getting is what you see. So it's not a whole lot changed. Gained a little bit, but not a whole lot. So the next thing they went to was the newest iPad.
I love it.
iPad Air.
I thought it was beautiful.
Because iPad loves Air, apparently. So
yes.
They started out with some more stats, and for quick stats, they sold their 170 millionth iPad this past month. They also announced that 81% of tablets in use today are iPads. So
not surprising, I don't think.
Competing with the Surface, or now it's the Surface 2, came out today.
Yep.
How convenient. Surface 2 came out today, Surface Pro 2, which truthfully, to me, my boss uses them, and they are awesome. As much of an Apple fanboy as I can be, the Surface, they do everything you want and more. And you can do everything right there, and it's just... Sometimes it's easier than an iPad. I apologize.
And I think it totally depends on what you're doing, too.
Yeah.
What you're using it for makes a difference. But yeah, those RTs are great. But I think this upgrade to the iPad, first of all, just the aesthetics of it.
Yeah.
I've always thought the bezel on the original iPad, you look at it and you're just like, wow, there's just a lot of lost screen real estate that they could have used with that bezel. Obviously, with the old one, they had a lot of stuff in the back and it needed to be that big, so they had to have the bezel. But they really reduced that on the iPad Air, and I think it looks fantastic.
A lot of people were joking that it looks like the larger iPad mini.
It does. It really does.
To me, the joke didn't make sense because the iPad mini is just the smaller iPad, obviously.
Right. But if you're talking about, when you look at the iPad mini, you look at an old iPad, not this new iPad Air, the iPad mini just didn't have it had a thinner bezel. Yeah. And so now it almost, they're right, the big one does it exactly like that, just in a bigger format because there's that thin bezel on the side. Apparently a lot lighter. It's going to fit in your hand almost like a mini. Which is good to hear.
Much lighter and much thinner. It's 7.5 millimeters thick. And the video they showed, we could probably link to it somewhere, but the video that Apple showed at the end of the iPad talk, a camera sitting next to a table, and at the table level there was a pencil. They were talking, and then slowly they panned up, and behind the pencil was the iPad Air. So, again, the pencil is kind of the benchmark for how thick certain tablets can be. iPad Air wins that battle.
Definitely. No fingerprint no Touch ID.
I'm not upset by that.
I'm not either. I don't have the iPhone 5S. I've heard people who do, and they do like it, but I don't think it's necessary at this point. I don't think they needed it.
Yeah.
I heard people that have it on the iPhone say they go to their iPad and it's almost like intuitive and they want it to happen, but I don't think they needed it. I think they can use it as another upgrade to the future one. They need something kind of, you never put out all your stuff at once. You need something that you can, pad your next announcement with. But
and I wouldn't say it's another thing notably missing for the most part, but a lot of people were kind of speculating and people thought they had leaked images of gold iPads. There is no gold.
Didn't happen.
Stuck with only the iPhone, which again, to me, fingerprint scanner, the Touch ID, and the gold, to me, yeah, it's aesthetically pleasing. It looks cool and sounds cool, but
nothing you need.
Press the button.
Yes. And to be honest, we all put big, chunky cases around our phones anyway.
Exactly.
But other than that, I thought it was a great... I like it. I like the look of it. Even bigger, though, I think, iPad mini gets Retina.
Yes. So basically, both iPads will be the same. One is smaller, so the mini, then you have the iPad Air. You are getting the same iPad, pretty much. One price, there's price differences.
Tech specs a little different. You're going to get a little more power, a little more fluid use on the big iPad. But other than that, size-wise and everything else, and for as much as most people will notice, they're going to be the same.
Yeah.
You might, if you're playing a game, a high graphic game, you might have a little bit of difference. But yeah, the Mini does have that A7 chip in there. No, I'm sorry, the iPad Air. Do they now both have the A7?
They both have the A7, but I may be wrong. I can look this up really quick. Apparently, the iPad Air, I saw something about the A7X chip. I don't know if that's a thing or if I may have misspoken when I wrote it, which could have easily happened.
I think it's just the A7.
It's just the A7?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's just the A7.
Yeah, just the A7.
10 hours of battery life, which on an iPad, whew.
I think my iPad battery already lasts long. I have it sitting on my couch all the time, and I don't have it plugged in very often. I think it works great.
The only time it really goes down is when I'm sitting there playing whatever game I'm playing. FIFA. That's a fun game. It's free for the most part.
There you go.
But I don't know. Between the two, truthfully, I'd much rather have the larger iPad. Yeah, the iPad Mini is great for just kind of around the house, screwing around. But there's something about having the iPad, like the larger iPad. It is a second screen, and it's a second computer for the most part.
$100 more. That's the only price difference. I think for $100, the bigger screen really does make a difference.
Yeah.
But it's whatever you guys want. If you literally are only using your iPad Mini for reading a book and you want it small, that works great for you. Yeah. If you are using it more for an all-around device, I would probably suggest the iPad Air. I know you said you like the bigger one too. I do as well. I have the third generation iPad, the one that first came out with Retina display, and I love the large screen.
Yeah, that's what I have.
I find myself, I have my phone and I have my iPad next to me, and I will always go to my iPad because it's just that bigger screen. Whether it's reading, whether it's checking my ESPN fantasy scores, I don't know why, it just looks that much better with the big screen.
I guess along with the iPad, I guess with the iPad Air, you're also getting 1080p HD video, which I believe the iPad, the third or fourth generation, the third iPad 3 with the Lightning connector, I believe that has 1080. I may be wrong.
It was 720.
It was 720
on the old iPad, I believe. So you do get the upgrade.
And it's a 5 megapixel iSight camera, so you're getting a pretty good camera on the front of your iPad with another good camera, which I guess you could say that was kind of left out too. There were such big improvements on the camera that you had with the iPhone 5S and 5, or just the 5S.
Right.
And the fact that they're leaving them out on this.
And I think they highlight that more on the iPhone probably because they're used more.
Oh, yeah.
I find myself, besides FaceTime and Skype, I never use my iPad camera. I know a lot of people do, and I know a lot of people love it, but I think my iPhone one is far better, and I just don't like holding a big device up like this, taking a photo. But for FaceTime, having that high-quality FaceTime eyesight, great.
Yeah. And for those of you who do use your iPad as a camera, we see you, and we don't like you. You look like you're holding a cookie sheet.
I like you. I like you. No, yeah, it's just so many. Yeah, I mean, and especially in the big town, New York, Chicago, especially when people are walking around there, it's a touristy towns. You see it all the time.
You see it,
and it's gotten more and more kosher, I guess, but it still looks a little funky.
You look goofy. You look goofy, but to each his own.
Yeah,
so.
Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you, I guess. But
the only other thing they really had with the iPads was the new cases. So I had heard that there was going to be a new smart cover. They were going to update it.
I heard that too.
They didn't. So you have new smart covers. It's just the smart cover for the newest iPad. The iPad Air smart cover is $79 and the Mini is $69. But you can also get iPad covers that they sell. I'm assuming that's probably just to cover the screen, whichever cover it might be. They sell those for $40. And as always, a product red cover. Going to AIDS research. So,
Great.
Other than that was pretty. Tim Cook came back on the stage and kind of ended it there.
I can't remember what Eddie Q presented, but how about those cuffs? He had like the pass. I don't even know what.
It was red, white, and blue.
Yeah, and he just had flowery cuffs flipped out. He was.
He presented iWork and iLife, I believe.
Yes, I believe so too, and I really liked it.
That ran a little longer than it should have. He and whoever he was sitting there doing iWork, the iCloud kind of. The sharing where you can do the what is it called? I'm losing the word when you're doing it together. The simultaneous sharing. You can sit there with iWork, kind of like Google Drive or Windows SkyDrive.
Yeah.
You can sit there, different locations, two different people can be sitting there working on a project, working on a paper, doing whatever.
And that is nice. I think they needed to do something like that, especially because even around, I know you and I saw around the college campus, Google Docs was just the easiest way. I mean, when you're working on anything together, even just college kids are using Google Docs. So I think, although Pages and all that stuff isn't too popular right now, I think it'll at least help them out.
Yeah.
The thing is, around college campus especially, and everywhere now, you're starting to see a ton more Macs. I mean, I'd say most students, when I look around my classroom at least, most of them have Macs. And so if you can maybe get them used to the idea of Pages, Keynote, and Numbers, who knows? I mean, a lot of us, almost all of us, have the Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint still. But
I mean, it's like you said, it's like across college campuses. I mean, the college here that we went to, wherever that was, they have it's the IJ store. It's an Apple store on campus, run by students, backed by Apple, and kind of overseen by Apple, but kept up by students and a faculty member. And the fact that a college campus has an Apple store, it kind of proves the point that people are moving away from PCs, even though a Mac is a PC at its core. And I mean, that happening is kind of it's a step in the right direction, but it's also a step in kind of the new direction. Yeah, people love PCs, but there's so many to choose from. You have two or three choices with Mac.
Yeah.
iPad, MacBook Pro, or an iMac.
Yeah. So, do you want a laptop, do you want a desktop, or do you want something mobile?
Yeah.
I mean, and with those three, then you get, you have the Air or the MacBook Pro, you have the iMac or the Mac Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you usually have like two options in each category. They make it simple, everything's unified. So, yeah, overall, I think it was a solid announcement by him. Like we said, nothing particularly groundbreaking, nothing that none of us really saw coming, besides maybe the price points on some things.
Yes.
I mean, it was foreshadowed a little bit, but we all didn't know for sure. So price points were great. But a solid set of announcements. I think every category got a nice upgrade. We just had the iPhone got all redone, so that was already accomplished. So everything, the only thing they left out was the iPod. But I don't know if that's because it's a dying category for them. It's really the only thing this year that didn't get touched. I noticed that.
See, it shouldn't be a dying thing because truthfully, that means you're having to buy a kid an iPhone.
Yes, and I totally disagree with that too.
Don't buy a kid an iPhone.
First of all, they break.
Yes, and I mean, I don't know. I always enjoyed having an iPod. It was kind of nice. Like, you don't have to take your phone with you everywhere. It's like if you just want music, you have that.
And you don't have to take as good of care of it as you do your phone. You can, if you're going They're supporting it. Usually the iPods are a little more rugged.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the shuffle
Okay.
especially, which I know you love and I love. It's more rugged. Throw it in a bag. You don't worry about the screen scratching. You don't worry about, oh, that's
Yeah.
my $400 phone. No, it's a $50 to $100 to $150 iPod that, yes, it would suck if it broke, but it's a little more durable.
Yeah.
Something that,
You're not as worried.
right,
Outwardly,
exactly.
at least.
So yeah, that was the only thing that didn't get an upgrade. But other than that, everything I think was a solid upgrade. Nothing disappointing, I don't think. I
No.
wasn't disappointed really with anything. If anything, they exceeded my expectations in certain categories. So
Yeah. Same here.
great. Well, like I said, this was Colin Ball, good friend of mine from college, works for B Squared Interactive in Omaha. Anything you want to say about the company at all?
Just a little bit about who we are. We're a web design and SEO internet marketing firm. It's one of those companies. We opened the doors a little under a year ago. It's growing quickly, growing very seamlessly. It's a fun day every day. Good place to work at, fun place to work at. It's one of those places. It's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to work at a company that you're literally working from the moment they open the doors.
That's amazing. Yeah, so great company in Omaha. If you're in the metro area or if you're even not, check them out.
Yeah.
Just look to see what they're doing because they're doing some really cool stuff. And he said always current. Great website to follow. Also follow them on Twitter. We'll have all that in the links. You've already seen our Twitter handles under our video, so you're looking at those right now. Follow us on Twitter. Talk to us. We love talking to people, answering questions, that sort of stuff. Don't be shy. We're very public with our lives now with social media, so
Yeah.
have at it. Tear us apart or build us up. One of the two, doesn't matter, or just join us for some good quality fun. But yeah, hopefully we're doing more videos like this together. Seem to work out well,
Yeah.
and it was great talking with you, Colin.
You too.
All right.